Hello and welcome to Sobrix. I'm Adam and this is Sobrix. This is my channel for reviewing LEGO sets and building them and other LEGO related stuff. In this video, I'm going to be taking a look at the LEGO Technic 2022 Ford GT set. This is set number 42154. It has 1,466 pieces, and I paid $120 for this set. I pretty much wanted this set since it released, but I wasn't thrilled about $120. I kind of wanted to see it go down to like $100. I haven't really I haven't seen it on sale, and I've been checking aftermarket stuff and never pulled the trigger on it. But from what I understand, it's a pretty dense build, and it's 1/12 scale, which is interesting. I've built the Peugeot and I've built the McLaren F1 car that are relatively big. I don't know if those are 1/10 or 1/8 or something like that, but this seemed like an interesting kind of set here, so I did want to take a look at this, and so I decided to pull the trigger. I did use some of my LEGO Insiders points to save some money, and I bought some other sets at the same time, so my effective cost is less, but I am going to evaluate the value of this set as with its retail price. So either way, in this video, I'm going to open this up, I'm going to put this together, and then I'm going to share my thoughts on it. So while I build, I will speed the video up, and then I'll slow it back down to review this set. So until then, enjoy. Okay, so while we look at the build process for this LEGO Technic 2022 Ford GT set, I just wanted to say thanks for watching, and then remind you, if you like the video, click the thumbs up. If you like my other videos, click the subscribe button. That stuff helps me a lot. And then I wanted to talk my way through the build a little bit. So we start working on actually some of the engine differential stuff right away here. We start working on some of the suspension. This is the rear suspension right away. That's some of the first stuff that you do, and as you can see, we have those clear pieces that are going to be we're using right now. Those are going to be part of the engine that the pistons will operate through, so that's very nice. We will be able to see that. So the engine is very early. It's kind of placed high in the build relative to the rest of the vehicle because there's a lot of functionality in this vehicle, a lot of features that some accommodations needed to be made to make sure that everything worked and everything had a spot, had its place. So that's very, very cool. There is gears kind of throughout this thing that work a lot, and it takes a while. It takes maybe the first couple bags to build all the interiors before we can even see the form of the car starting to come on with all the panels and everything. We do have that big rectangular kind of beam piece at the rear, which does make up a lot of the kind of body of this thing, and there's a lot of really dense building in here. I mean, all of the pieces in the first build kind of come together for not even half of the internals of this set, which is really impressive. It's a weird scale, but I think the building techniques used and the density of the pieces is really impressive and works very well. So now on to the second bag of pieces. We can start building this out a little bit more, which is great. We start by kind of building some of the stuff that's going to end up being the internals of the like the driver's seat, the passenger seat, and some of the stuff like that. There's also a lot more functionality that is in the middle between kind of the front and the rear, so that's all built in there. We can see some of the suspension for the front axles coming in here, as well as some of the mechanisms for the steering. This doesn't have like steering connected to the steering wheel, unfortunately, but it still does have steering, which is appreciated, and it's nice to be able to see the gears kind of moving as that goes, and we have to make room for everything there. I think the front of this, all the internals, is very dense as well. And now that we have the two ends connected, we can start working on some other stuff. This ends up being a function piece that will do something later in the build, and in the final build you'll really, and in my final review, you'll see all of the kind of things that that little part does. We can start building out a little bit of the shape is coming in here, but without all the panels it still is pretty far off. We start building kind of more of the frame, like where the doors are going to be, where the windscreen is going to be. If it doesn't have a windscreen in the plastic sense, but there's an impression of one, where kind of the front hood of the vehicle is all going to go, and a few other things there. We do use the nice kind of flexible piece, and that's supposed to be, I believe, the kind of the part where the windshield connects to like the hood of the car, the front of the vehicle there. We have some internal details, so there's some stickers used inside, like on the steering wheel, kind of on the console in front of the passenger seat. And these seats aren't extremely robust or anything like that, but they are there, and they fit in there. Their seats are a weird scale, and I know the Technic figures that they used to make back in the day probably don't fit in this. I don't know if they really feel scale to anything that LEGO is producing in the modern era. Some structural things added onto the side with those rectangular beam pieces. Want to make sure I get those all right. Sometimes it's a little tough when you have to like get something to attach to so many pins and axles, but I eventually got that all figured out. And a couple other final little elements to this here, and it's really important for Technic to be sure not to miss anything, or to miss a step, miss any of the pieces. And so I was kind of hyper aware of that. I actually had to, I was using the digital instructions, and I had to go back to the physical instructions to make sure I didn't miss anything, to make sure everything was put in correctly. And I'll have to do that a couple times throughout the set. I did think that there was some pieces that weren't, I probably shouldn't have had an extra one, and I wanted to kind of figure out why I did, just based on my familiarity with what the extra pieces tend to be and how many I might expect in a given bag of pieces. So I'm trying to figure that out here, and I do believe I figure it out, but it might have been this part that I contacted LEGO support. I think there was, seems we figured it out. I think there was one element, one extra piece that I did not anticipate, and I reached out to them to ask, like, is this a common issue? Is it just an extra one of these and everything? But they didn't know of anything, and so that's that. And now we can really start seeing the car take form. So we get the kind of roof element there added on, and we have those brick-built racing stripes. We also have some of the racing stripes being like continuous through this with the use of stickers, but it matches together really, really nicely. So I like that a lot. We do have a lot of recolors, a lot of this navy blue in the Technic like panel pieces that we didn't have before, probably even some of the beam pieces and everything, which is really, really nice. And all of this is really helpful to allow for the final set to start taking shape. So we can add on kind of the rear bumper area there. We can add on the kind of, this is more of the rear bumper, some of the fins or the exhaust things kind of underneath on the bottom that we add in there. Really, really nice use. And here we can add on kind of the lights and maybe the grill, as well as the sort of license plate that says Ford GT on it. A good amount of stickers in this set. Some of them are really, really great and necessary. Some of them maybe could have been left off. I actually think there's maybe one instance where I thought the sticker, actually right here, the ones we're putting on, maybe should have been bigger, and I think that would have helped for kind of the suggestion of the overall shape and some of the angles and the lines that this cuts. But the angles that these sub-assemblies are attached on are really, really great, really impressive, and I think they do a ton to kind of realize the specific shape of the 2022 Ford GT. You can see here we're working on some of the fender areas. These are really dense too, kind of deceptively dense. There's a lot of little pieces in there, so we're adding on the rear fender, kind of connecting that to some of the framework, and then we can start working on the other one there. There's some stickers on that. Want to make sure we get those in the right spot, in the right orientation, and here we have the rear fender. So now we really can see we have kind of half a car here, but that kind of V shape that those panels are making, cutting kind of across from the back of the seating area to the rear kind of fin or whatever is really, really well achieved. So I like that. Now we can start working on some of the panel pieces for the front, the hood area, the front fenders, and a few other things, including the grille at the front and the lights. The lights have those kind of special frosted glass, kind of frosted clear looking pieces. They're not the best shape overall, but they are printed and they are kind of a unique thing. So I do appreciate that, even if I think they maybe could have been better. Here we have some nice asymmetric building that allows for the racing stripes to be brick built with beams, with all different kinds of pieces throughout there. So the front end's really coming together here, and happy to see that. I want to make sure I get that correct, but all of the lines through the front are done really, really nicely, and you'll kind of see how that works out once the rest of it is constructed. Here we have the built up racing stripes as well, with that little bit of hood element there, and the use of the black panels in the kind of front end of the car really do a lot for the shaping of this, which I think is wonderful. And we have a couple more kind of pieces left around the edge there with some of those flexible tubing. And here's another part where I want to make sure I haven't missed a step, haven't missed a place where this piece is supposed to go, because I wouldn't expect this particular piece to be an extra. So and I actually have two of them there. I'm trying to figure that out. So I do spend a lot of time. Overall, this build actually took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and so even sped up to 2000% in my editing software, this is still a pretty long build section for a set of this size. I mean, it's an interesting scale, it's an interesting build, very, very dense, and Technic is pretty unforgiving in terms of missing pieces, missing steps, or anything like that, just the nature of how all of these pieces interact with each other. And so for now, I have those pieces kind of left over. I don't know if it was an issue where like they'll be used in a later bag and they were put in the bag previous to this, but hopefully I get that resolved. Moving on from here, we have kind of the rear window kind of cover for the area where the engine is, which is really nice. Again, those are stickers for the racing stripes there. And then we can start working on these sub-assemblies for the doors. These are really, really impressive. They function in a great way. There's a lot of pieces in these doors, dense building, nice techniques. It makes the shape is, I would say, almost perfect to me. The way that these kind of the angles connect with that kind of V I was pointing out earlier, I think is kind of seamless and really, really does a lot for the top-down look at this model. So I think that's really, really good, and they open up in a fun way, and they look really sleek and nice. Very few gaps in this build overall, but in the door kind of sub-assemblies especially, they're quite good. And now I'm taking some time to try to figure out where these pieces might go, because I do not think those are supposed to be extra. They're kind of like that bushing piece that would go over like a pin, but they have the axle coming off of it, and those are usually heavy enough that they wouldn't be an extra piece. So it really seems to me like I did something wrong or I missed something, and it takes me a while to kind of resolve this issue. It was a little bit frustrating, but I believe I get it figured out. Hopefully so. I'm actually recording the voiceover way after I built this, and so I don't even remember what the outcome is ultimately, but I'm trying to, find that, and hopefully I do, and then we can kind of finish up the build and then add the wheels, and then on to my review for this set. Thanks. Okay, so that is the LEGO Technic 2022 Ford GT set. This I built in January of 2024. It came out in 2023, and I have just not reviewed it on the channel yet, so I'm kind of getting caught up on a lot of things that I built a long time ago that I haven't actually recorded my thoughts about it. Sometimes I do those, right away. Sometimes it takes me a little while, and different stuff, schedule permitting and everything. But we will get into this, and right off the bat, I just want to say I don't have the extra pieces here left over like I normally do. So at the end of the video, or near the end of the video, I'll put a picture of what is generally what you would expect for extra pieces. For some reason, I remember this one having like an extra piece that I didn't anticipate. Like, it probably shouldn't have been extra, and I contacted LEGO to see if that was a known issue with this set, and they said no, but I went through this so many times to make sure I didn't miss anything, and I didn't. So, and with Technic, it's especially rough if things are missed, any steps or parts, because the way these are put together can require a lot of disassembly to rectify a missing piece there. But anyway, we have this here, and this is really cool, really, really fun. I have some experience with Technic, although I still consider myself a little bit of a beginner. I've done the Peugeot, I've done the big McLaren Formula One car. I haven't done the newest Formula One car for 2024 yet. I've done a lot of the smaller kind of $40, $50 build ones, but I haven't ever done any of like the $300, $400 Technic sets, like the Cian, or there's the one Bugatti, and even some of the bigger like Porsche ones and stuff like that I haven't done a ton of, or any at all. So this is interesting to me. I thought the scale was interesting, and the build is actually pretty compelling given the size. So I think officially this is 1/12th or 1/11th, or maybe 1/10th. I think some of the other ones are like 1/8. I don't know what like the Cian is. It couldn't be 1/6, right? Maybe if that's 1/8. I think this is like a little bit off there. I think the Peugeot and the McLaren Formula One car, that's Technic. I can't even remember what the scales is. So this is like an interesting scale. It's kind of this middle zone above sort of the play scale stuff, like I was saying, the $40, $50 range, but also not as much as the $180, $200, $250 range or above. So this is really, really cool, and we'll get into it. Of course, there's no minifigures in here, and this is really, really neat. Very, very dense. It starts out with, we'll look at the bottom here, a pretty big like rectangle kind of panel piece, not a panel, but like these Technic beams all connected there, and as you can see, underneath this, there's like a lot of mechanisms and different things in here. Overall, the build process I thought was surprisingly complex and really quite good. So if we look at the side view here, the kind of the profile of this one, we can see kind of a lot of the lines through here that are pretty interesting, a lot of the curves that it creates, and a lot of the piece usages. There's a lot of small parts packed closely together in various parts. There's also some concessions needed to be made because of the different kind of features and functions this has, but overall this is pretty impressive. It does have stickers. I don't have the sticker sheet near me. I might have thrown it out. I'll try to point those out. I do know that like these headlights are printed, but up at the front, the grill here is a sticker. We do have stickers on these panels as well. The Ford with the stripes there, that is a sticker. Looking on the side, we have a little one right here. Same on the rear kind of fender area there. There's a couple stickers inside that I'll show eventually. Up here we have a sticker kind of to continue that sort of racing stripes all the way through, which some of them are brick built. Actually, a good amount of them are brick built, but a few of the smaller ones on these panels are stickers on this beam back here. These are stickers here and here. Looking at the rear, this is actually an array of stickers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and one back here. One on this plate here. The GT there is a print. This one is a sticker. And the other side is very much the same. There's a couple up here, which I actually, I didn't mind putting those on. I think they could have, if they were bigger, they might have had a better effect on this set overall. And I think that's like the majority of the stickers. A lot of these Technic vehicles have stickers on them in some capacity, and I was totally fine with it. It's good to get these kind of frosted glass looking headlights with the printing. I think that is really nice, even if the headlights maybe don't look exactly like the reference vehicle looks. And if I notice any other stickers, going through this, I will point that out as I go. I just want to take a moment to go through some of the build process and some of the features and the functions and everything there. The instruction manual for this does have some pretty cool like photos to compare it to, and a little bit of history of the Ford GT, stuff from the designer. And that's all really interesting for this. You start out kind of with the rear, like I say, building a lot of the functionality into this. You build the engine very early on. This does have an engine that's workable to some extent, so you put kind of the gear differential in there pretty early on. This also has like working suspension that you put in early on, and it's pretty well done. It does not make use of like the newest kind of suspension type pieces that they've made. It uses kind of a different system, but I'll show that a little bit later. There's a lot of asymmetry in the build process just because there's asymmetry in the vehicle itself, like especially in the internals there, but just the way that Technic all goes together requires a little bit of that. And we can see the engine a little bit through the rear. It's a little high up off the ground, but there's a reason for that. And actually one of the features is that the rear here can open up, so this is easy to open. And when we do that, we can kind of see the 6-cylinder there with the clear kind of things, and it works. So if I spin the back wheel, it works. And the wheels spin independently, so when I move like the right side wheel, the left side one does not spin, but both of them connect to the engine in there, so you can still see those pistons firing no matter what each one uses. So you build that pretty early on. It's cool to get the clear in there. It's nice we can see some of the gear work and the differential down here that makes that all function, which is really, really nice. And then moving on from there, we start building kind of the front mechanism in the second bag of pieces where we actually add in all of the internal stuff, the front axle and suspension, and a little bit of the kind of nose or the front end of the vehicle. But we're still pretty far away from all of the paneling and all of this to really take shape. The third bag of pieces is when you really do like the roof, the back kind of spoiler area. You don't do this yet, but like the rear fenders and everything. The fourth bag of pieces is mostly the front, and then the last bag of pieces, the fifth bag of pieces, is like for the doors, the stuff back here, and a few other kind of finishing touches there. I think this is an interesting scale to work in. It is really, really dense. So that's partly why I kind of showed the bottom there, because there's lots of stuff going on here. We can kind of see how this suspension works. So those move there. They're all independent. The front is as well. And they have a good amount of range of motion. A lot of little pieces used, a lot of dense building in here. In the rear, up on the front, it clears out a little bit, but there's some good asymmetry up there. And I think some of the most interesting building is the use of like panel pieces in really, really nice ways. And I think it's best kind of shown off by the doors. The doors function, and so they open up. You've maybe already kind of seen that a little bit, but they open up in a really cool way. They kind of have that like butterfly door thing, so they come out, but they also go up. And you can see it uses these kind of strut pieces that go between a couple ball joints there, and those move. It pivots over here, it moves kind of down there on that kind of L-beam there. But all of this for the door has the panels that are upside down on the bottom. It has, like, we can kind of see these panels here, lots of stuff connecting that in, beams in here. Then we have the panels going this way, then a bigger panel going this way, and they all fold in there with very little gapping. I mean, there are gaps because it's Technic and stuff, but the lines that it creates are really, really fluid when they need to be. They're sharp when they need to be. So that's really, really great. I thought the mechanism for the doors was very cool. And they work great, they look great, and that's nice to see. In the internals, you do have kind of the approximation of seats here, so I can kind of show that. You do have a steering wheel, although it is not connected to the front wheels, so rotating this does not turn the wheels at all, which is a little bit of a shame. There is a sticker on the steering wheel that says the GT in there. A little bit hard to see with my lighting. There's a sticker of kind of the dash stuff behind right here behind the steering wheel. There's some other stuff on the passenger side as well in there. So this is a sticker. And again, we can kind of see the seats. No connected steering, but we do have steering that functions, and that's up here, kind of, they call it like the hand of God steering, which is interesting because a lot of the smaller Technic sets, like the Huracan and the Bolide and the NASCAR and the Jeep, they all have this up here. It seems like it's more of a playset thing, and the scale of this is kind of in between what's like strictly an adult-oriented display set, even though this was in an 18+ box, and it does have some building techniques that I feel are kind of 18+-esque, but it has kind of a more play scale type of thing with the steering being on the top. But it is good. I know they have done it in the past where there's like steering up top and connected steering to the steering wheel. That would have been nice to see, but is not present here. I think the front end shows off some really nice panel usages and some nice kind of color blocking to kind of get the intakes and different depths kind of represented there. So we have like a lot of small panel pieces up in the front, but it comes together to be with very little gaps and look pretty good. So like where these black panels are used, I think that is a really nice effect. You can actually lift that up a little bit, and we can see the gears in there for the steering, so it's nice to be able to see the gears. But looking down in there when it's up, we can see how like dense all this stuff is with a mix of beams and panels. Same under here, the panels going around the side right there up at the front is very, very nice. And then the rear is pretty exposed, but one of the things I love about the look of this top down is the lines that this cuts. So if we look at the doors kind of from the front here, the doors cut back and it leads kind of seamlessly into the panels right behind that, and then that goes down to the end here. So we have this kind of V shape that I think is represented really, really nicely in the Technic, that the real reference car has as well. And I think this transition from these door panels when they're closed to the panels right behind there is really, really nice. So this is great. The angle that's at is kind of a unique angle for all of these things to be in, which is really, really cool. I think the building, there's a little bit of brick building in here that accentuates that a little bit, and it all kind of draws to a point at the rear, kind of where the spoiler is. The spoiler actually has a little bit of a function too. So if you can see in the inside, we have this red kind of knob there or lever, and that's why there's a mechanism below the engine there. So if we push that back, it raises the kind of spoiler or the wing up a little bit. And if I pull it forward, it goes back down. When I push it back, it goes back up. It's not perfect. It doesn't always go back all the way down just by using the lever here, and it doesn't always go all the way up, but you can kind of pump it a little bit to make it work. And what that looks like on the bottom, and you can see it's under the engine, it's under the steering, the suspension there. And if I can find the red piece, you push that through, and you can kind of push it a little more to kind of get the mechanism over here to raise up that kind of thing there. There is a way to just do it on your own if you kind of push up on this kind of half beam between these fins right under the license plate there. So if you push that up, you can get it. You have to, if you want it to stay, you do have to have the lever in the right way. And then this can also turn a little bit. You can articulate that to kind of get a nice angle there. You can push that back down, get the lever back forward. You can still kind of use that to change the angle, which is really, really nice. So that's an extra function. It doesn't work perfectly, and I don't know if it's a real payoff because of the mechanism just not being 100% perfect. It doesn't work perfectly, and if it did, that would be great. I think it's, I just became unattached down here. So let me see if we can get it now. Yeah, it doesn't, sometimes it works rather well. Other times it doesn't. Like that's working pretty good right there, I would say. So that's cool to see. I mean, it is another function of this. So you can really kind of open this up. You can have the doors swing open. You can have the hood sort of swing open at the front just so you can see the steering in there. You can flip this open so you can get access to the engine, and then you could raise up the kind of spoiler there, And when it's like that, you get a pretty good view of all the internals of this. So you can see the seats, the internal details all through there. You can see a little bit of the engine, from the rear especially, but also from this side. You can see some of the stuff up here, which is all very, very good. That's kind of a lot of functionality built into this in a pretty compact package, and that's part of the reason it has such a dense build. It is also the reason, when looking at the side of this, even though this has working suspension in here, we have a pretty big gap around the fenders and the wheels, or between them, and the real one is a lot different than that. I think it should be lower, and they should have like a lower, I don't know if the right thing is lower profile, but they should probably be like a little more tucked under there or closer to the fenders. And essentially what that allows is it to look more like the realistic car. This one feels like it's a little bit lifted up. It's a little hard for me to show here, but if you can imagine what this would look like if the wheels were if it was set a little bit lower. But part of the reason it can't be, part of the reason the engine is high up, is because of the kind of tail wing or the spoiler at the back. I think I'm not a super knowledgeable car person. I compared this to the reference photos in the manual, which is good. I know that Jang in their review talked about kind of the angle that this panel cuts, and maybe it should be a little sharper and go back a little farther. They also talked about the lack of a windshield here, kind of messing with the profile of what this should be, because it should probably go out farther, kind of like where this flexible tube is. But because it's Technic, we don't really have a piece there, so we just see these kind of frame pieces and not the actual windshield, which can kind of create a bit of an illusion. And Jang in their review also talked about these headlights not being the right shape. So I think that's all valid. To me, as someone who's not knowledgeable about the car itself, I didn't notice them. I wasn't able to really call attention to them, even when comparing it to the reference photos. So I thought this was just really, really cool, really, really fun, and nicely done. So that's all very good. I'm just noticing that maybe I have something messed up between one of these doors, and I don't know if I can fix it right now. I think this is in the wrong pinhole. So let me see there. Is that better? If I flip this up, yeah, that's still not 100% right. So I have a little bit of an error in here in regards to the kind of door mechanism, and I'm looking at this, and this folds down, but it doesn't go down. Oh, it doesn't work in the same way. So let's see if I can figure this out. It should be that this goes that way. There we go. So the doors open like that, and then they close back. So now that is fixed. I just had this kind of, these two L half beams kind of flipped around, oriented the wrong way. So good to be able to fix that there. I think the scale works well if it is trying to be kind of this cross between play scale and display. I think it looks great for display. Like I said, I like how it looks with all the different compartments open, all the different features that you can show off. I thought the build experience was very, very fun, nicely complex, especially given the scale. It felt like a proper, 18 plus build, which is really, really great. And I like the overall look of this. I don't I'm not necessarily going to play with it a ton, but I definitely appreciate the wheels attached to the engine, the suspension, the doors, the steering is all like really, really cool. So I like that. I think overall the shaping is really good. The design is really, really good. So I was impressed with this. My one thing, and this has been something that's come up in other sets, is I like the dark blue a lot. There were a lot of recolors for some of the different Technic pieces in here, beams, panels, all different pieces that were recolored into this kind of navy blue, dark blue, which is really, really great. I don't really mind seeing bits of red back here, or the tan or the blue pins as much as other people do. But I do notice a lot of mold marks, and that does make this a little more problematic to me. It's just that much further from perfect, and some of these can be avoided, other ones can't. So like on the side of this kind of half beam piece here, there's a mold mark, but on the other ones there's not. So if I flipped that around, that mold mark wouldn't be as visible. Same back here, there's a couple mold marks, but if I flipped those around, those would be on the underside. Over here, one's got the mold mark visible, and the other one it's down below. And there's a few other instances of that where the mold marks are kind of visible and they look kind of rough here and here. These look kind of rough, so I'm not thrilled about that. I wish they didn't have that, but that seems to be kind of a problem with all Lego pieces. There are other times where the piece like this one with the mold mark right there, that beam, there's not a way I could flip that around to make it work, because it's like an L beam in there going a specific way. It maybe if I switch this one over here and this one over here or something, that would help them hide a little bit. But there are instances where it's not as doable. I think this one is a pretty bad mold mark that looks like it's got like a lot of whitening in there and everything. That one could probably be flipped around. So it would take me some time to really do that. I could have paid more attention to that as I was building, but that's a hassle. I don't think with like a product at this price level I should really have to do that. I understand that mold marks are kind of part of the production process. It just doesn't seem like it's always been an issue or always been as bad of an issue. So I think some of the ones that are visible here are a little worse than they needed to be, a little more obvious, a little more problematic in the overall look. But in general, my feelings towards this are very positive. In terms of the extra pieces, like I said, I'll kind of put an image up over here of the extra pieces. You do get an extra of the printed round tile with the GT there. It's probably the most notable one you might get, but then your pins, your axles, like small pieces like that, any of like these brick built pieces like the cheese wedge or the tiles there, you would get an extra of those. Your 1x1s, your small like these, like bushing that go over like a Technic pin there, those would be in the extra pieces and stuff like that. So those are about what you would expect, I would say, from extra pieces like this in this set. And this set in total is 1,400 and 66 pieces is what it said on the box at the beginning of my video, but the Lego website says 1,468. So I don't know what that two-piece discrepancy is, but either way, it's just under 1,470 pieces, and it retails for $120. I really wanted to find this on sale. I was hoping to get it down to $100 or less. I don't know if it's ever been on sale. I didn't follow too much of the market movement on this because it's like still in production, even though right now it's on back order from the Lego Shop at Home website. I think they're still in stock in a lot of stores, but I haven't seen them be as discounted as I might like. I think in the aftermarket, sealed copies can go for around $90 or $100, which I think would be great. As is at $120, it's a Technic set. Price per piece makes sense. There are a lot of small pieces in here. It doesn't feel terrible. It does feel like a nice middle zone there. I think I would always advocate for Lego to be a little bit cheaper, but it does make sense for what I have in front of me and what all went into building this and designing this. So I think it's reasonable. I think a sale would be great. If I had my way, I think $100 would have been excellent for this, because then we're like roughly double the price of the kind of play scale cars. Let me actually grab one of those that I'm considering a play scale kind of car here. So this is one of the Lamborghini Hurricanes there, and we can kind of see the side by side lengthwise. It's probably 1 1/3 bigger. It's wider and it's taller. So it is bigger in pretty much every dimension there, which is substantial. It's got way more features baked into it. It's a way more advanced build. So the size difference is here. It's not like truly double the size, but in terms of scale, if this is, I don't know what these are, 1/16 or something like that. I really have no idea. But scale wise, it seems like this is a scaled up version, and then maybe those big $300 ones are kind of keeping the same sort of like scale to all the pieces relative into the set itself, just scaled up. So there's a kind of a comparison of these. It is quite a bit bigger, and I think that's great. So in that way, if this retails for $50 or $60 and can be found on sale sometimes for even $40, if it's $50 retail, then 20% off would be $40. I think a lot of these kind of scale ones, like the Jeep Wrangler and the NASCAR and the Hurricane and the Bolide and all that stuff, I think those are often on sale around $40 or less. It seems to me that this could have been really, really great at $100, which is double the kind of retail of some of these smaller Technic vehicles that are still pretty substantial. These are a really, really nice size, I personally feel. This does have bigger wheels, which I know are more expensive to produce. It probably does have more recolors, although for the Hurricane and Hurricane and stuff, those probably had some recolors as well. Specialized lights up here are another, expensive piece to produce a little bit. So it's kind of in this middle area. I think I'm comfortable with the price I paid. I would have loved to get it on sale. It does feel like this is a good $120 model. It would feel better at 100 or 110. Compared to the piece count, it's pretty good. There's some Technic sets that have, like the Peugeot is $200, but it's only got 700 or 1,700 pieces, almost 1,800 pieces. And the more recent one, the Mercedes AMG, is $220, and that one has 1,600 pieces. So, but that has the slick wheels and lots of other stuff. So it is a bit different. The McLaren Formula One has actually fewer pieces than this Ford GT and is $200. That one's also on back order. That one's got 1,434. It's got bigger wheels. It's got different stuff. It is a whole other scale than this. So it's more expensive, but in piece it's actually fewer pieces in this, which is kind of a testament to how dense this is, how tight everything is, and the nature of the vehicles themselves not being like an open wheel race car and stuff like that. There's a lot of differences, but this has more pieces than the Formula One McLaren Technic vehicle, and that one is $80 more expensive. So in comparison to those, this feels pretty good, I would say. In comparison to some of the more play scale ones, I would say this is almost there. All that's to say, I'm comfortable with the value. I would have liked to get it on sale, but I had a blast building this, a blast talking about it, pulling it back out after having it tucked away for so long was a great joy for me, and I really had a fun experience with this, so that is top notch to me, and yeah, very, very cool. So I like it. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up and give it a like. If you like my other videos, click the subscribe button down below so you can stay up to date on all the LEGO videos I'll be doing here in the future, including more Technic. I don't think I've talked about the McLaren Formula One race car that came out maybe 2 years ago or something on the channel yet. I have built that. It's pretty big, so I would have to adjust my setup, but I'll definitely be looking at more Technic stuff, more car stuff, and tons of other LEGO sets from all different themes, all different shapes, size, price point, piece count. So subscribe so you don't miss any of those upcoming LEGO videos on my channel. We are on the road to 2,000 subscribers. Thank you everybody who helped me get across 1,000. It means a ton to me, so thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And then if you wanted to support this channel in a different way by sending money to the channel, you could do that here on YouTube with membership, supers, and thanks. And I have the Patreon. It's in the video description on my channel page, patreon.com/sobricks. You get some extra bonuses like all my videos early and some exclusive videos and different things, including some that I'm working on right now that'll be up in the near future that will probably be paid exclusive for a little while, and then might eventually go available for everybody. I'm not positive. We'll see. And there's some other little bonuses and stuff too. So if you're interested in that, it is appreciated. It's not needed. It's not necessary. But if people are comfortable enough and think that my videos provide them some value or some enjoyment or something else, and they want to support the channel, there is avenues for that, and they're very, very helpful. So thank you very much. And with all that said, until next time, thanks. Bye.